Kaczynski.
They were cheering for you.
Ability also of the people that were manning it, and I'm happy to have Mr. Asher Hank here.
The heritage of motorsports is something that I think today's drivers cannot quite appreciate. They can't quite appreciate that they wouldn't be racing today if it were not for people like Dodgy Laurel, Pocholo Ramirez, who really started the whole thing, Dante Silverio. If not for those guys, you would not have the same level of motorsports and the same number of motorsports enthusiasts as you would have now. And I think that we owe it to them, to the pioneers, that their legacy not be forgotten.
The first car entered the Philippines during the year 1900, and as soon as the second car reached our shores, there probably was a race. The developing Philippine economy after the Second World War made it conducive for the birth of motorsports. The earliest documents of organized racing were those held in the Santa Ana Hippodrome.
This was done in the Hippodrome, in the Santa Ana racetrack. I mean, that's horse racetrack, but on certain days where there are no horse racing, they use this track.
That was just a one-shot race in the Hippodrome, where even if you're driving a pickup or a truck, you can race. It's open for everybody.
That's how I came to know people like Dodgy Laurel, Mel Lopez, supposed to be former mayor of Manila, Montserrat, and many others.
Due to the limited availability of the Santa Ana Hippodrome, the local motor enthusiasts resorted to street racing on the then sparsely populated streets of Makati and Quezon City.
In the 50s, through PMA at the time, no? You have our president, Attorney Ayuyao, who was very much involved in motorsports. He headed the Cam Wreckers Association, who were doing a lot of drag racing controlled at the Escarpment Road, that's Meralco area. And they were actually the first one to do drag racing.
That was 1956, if you remember, Nielsen Tower, where Peninsula Hotel is. That was the very first place they were holding the drag races, and I was up to the invitation of my balae, Dodo Ayuyo, my very best compadre. We've been very careful about the approaching policemen because we consider it not really illegal, but they don't allow drag racing in their streets during that time.
First group of motorsports icons who came before my generation were people like Dodgy, Laurel, who is probably still considered to have been the best Filipino racer. Then the group that went into drag racing, hill climb, the Cam Wreckers, Paquito Ventura, Montserrat, Baby Luna, no? What they did basically was to start the sport in the country.
From these informal street races, the need arose to legitimize the sport. Well-organized events with safety in mind were run. An entity with a personality to conduct these events was established by Dodgy Laurel, the founder of the Cam Wreckers.
I'm one of those who belong to the original motor enthusiasts, where during one Sunday, we thought of putting up a club just to have personality, you know, so that we can compete with other American-based enthusiasts. The first president was Dodgy Laurel, and I was the vice president. And when he died, I took over, where we continue the purpose of the club to develop motor racing in the island.
Being a true petrol head, Dodgy Laurel brought in 6 units of go-karts, the first go-karts ever in the Philippines. Straight out of the box, he and the other Cam Wreckers held an informal race in the driveway of his mother's home.
In the garden of his mother, the mother up there in her bedroom, we were, you know, the noise we had before. He just closed the windows and put on the air conditioning. Doesn't hear anything from the outside. It was fun to race in a small, narrow circuit, too tight for us. And then that was the beginning of karting. Then later on, we were invited by these people, Clarkfield and Subic. It so happened that our engine we bought there was only a small engine compared to them, which was very powerful. 3 horsepower Clinton against 7. 7 of theirs. That's why no competition. But the second time around, we were ready already to compete with them side by side, and we won some of the races.
The Filipino go-karters led by Dodgy Laurel were very competitive, not only against their American counterparts from Subic and Clark. They also were successful in the Asian region. Interport go-kart races in Tokyo, Hong Kong, Macau, Singapore, and Manila would witness many victories by the Filipinos. The local go-kart Grand Prix races were held in front of the Luneta Grandstand. Again, Dodgy Laurel took the initiative in building the first go-kart track in the Philippines, in his hometown in Tanawan, Batangas.
We were looking for a place nearby, but he offered this place in Batangas. Everybody gave a hand to more or less put up this track by helping one way or the other. Then we started inviting foreign competitors like Hong Kong, Japan, some Asian countries who are already engaged in the sports.
No other international race is closest to the Filipino than the prestigious Macau Grand Prix. Not limiting themselves to go-kart racing, some of the feisty members of the Cam Wreckers raced their cars and tested their skills in this prestigious race. Their first attempt taught them what they needed to win on their second year in the fast and twisty Gia circuit of Macau.
I bought 2 cars, 2 Alphas, one Spider and the other one is an ordinary Giulietta. I bought the Alfa Romeos in Hong Kong because there were available cars there. I was hoping I could drive a Jaguar, but apparently I have a defect on my right leg. I couldn't even exercise the heel and toe process. That's why I was content myself to racing a sports car like the Alpha Spider. Some of them are really gentlemen during the races. But there are times, happens, by crowding each other. But it was fun. It's really fun.
On their second attempt, and starting from 15th position, Dodgy Laurel wins his first Macau Grand Prix, and in the process, set the course and lap records for the 228-mile race on the Gia circuit. He took the lead on the 20th lap against a field of 25 drivers from Thailand, Singapore, and Hong Kong. Along with Paquito Ventura, Jose Cacho, and Billy Martinez, he won against regional champion A.D. Bennett and future multiple Macau Grand Prix champion Albert Poon. Paquito Ventura was also a winner in the Class E category, driving his Alfa Romeo Spider.
They're offering champagne everywhere. When Dodgy won the Grand Prix, we went around having dinner. The four of us, Joe Cacho and Billy Martinez, we were offered drinks, and they didn't allow us to pay for our dinner because of Dodgy Laurel also winning the Grand Prix for twice in a row. Kilalang-kilala kami doon.
Because of these international successes in both circuit racing and go-kart racing, the Filipino had gained acceptance and respect in the region's racing community. In typical Dodgy Laurel fashion, he introduced another form of competitive motorsports, the auto rally.
There were two basic grouping in interest of motorsports. One was the slaloms and ultimately going into circuit racing, and the other is rallying. So there was another group that was spearheading that.
Dodgy Laurel was brave enough to organize a rally. The rally at that time was really what's known in Europe as tulip. And the people here changed it to sampaguita instead of tulip because of a very popular flower in the Philippines. I talked to the owners of Toyota then. People in Mercedes were also doing that thing. There was a Prince car from Japan. There was the Isuzu Billet also, Morris Minor, and the Austin Minis. And so we went on. Shell, the oil company that sponsored it, we went to Tabangao and then we went north. And by some misfortune, Tony Wapa was caught speeding by the highway patrol. And that's a lot of demerit because you are going to do a certain speed limit from point A to B, and then you have to arrive there on a certain time. You cannot arrive early, you cannot arrive also late. Sorry for Tony because with 1,800 demerits, he did not even qualify there as even third place. But he was considered a finisher. And that was the beginning of my exposure to rallying.
The loss of Dodgy Laurel, the father of Philippine motorsports, did not deter the Filipino racing enthusiasts. Carrying the momentum started by Laurel, they organized the first Philippine Grand Prix held in the city of Cebu in 1969.
The Cebu Grand Prix, we were together with Dodo, Chito Montserrat, Louie Camus, and Putolo Ramirez was already there, and Dante Silverio.
There was going to be a Grand Prix to be held at Cebu. That was my first exposure to motorsports. And when we were in Cebu, the sound and the atmosphere of racing really hit me. We invited Pocholo to join us in Cebu, and that was the start of a fruitful relationship with Pocholo and dominance of motorsports in the 70s.
I did not even finish the first lap. I spun out on the first corner and that's it. And that's what racing is all about, you know. you prepare, and you spend money to ship your car to Cebu. I think it was about 5 seconds. I was too eager. I did not have control of myself yet. That's what happened.
I myself was leading the group, and Dodo was behind me. On the last lap, I spun out in one of the corners, and Dodo passed me, and I had to push the car to the finish line just to declare that I finished the race. So I came out second place because we were far from the group at the back, almost 3 laps.
After the very successful Philippine Grand Prix in Cebu, it was soon followed by the Manila Grand Prix, held in front of the Carino Grandstand in Luneta in 1970.
The Manila Jays, after Cebu, initiated a move to come up with a first ever Grand Prix with international participation.
I was with the Manila JCs at that time, and we were brainstorming on a project, a fundraising project. And since I was very much identified in motorsports, I don't remember who suggested. Somebody suggested, "Oh, there's Louie. He can organize a Grand Prix, a Manila Grand Prix." And then that's it. It started there. We prepared the track in Manila Grand Prix. I had to get FIA approval because this was international. The FIA told me you have to put poles on the side, you know. Barranco loaned me all their poles. So in one night, I was able to lay down all the poles. It served as a barrier on the, you know, on the sides. The main activities of the pit stop and the start and end of the race was in front of the Carino Grandstand. It was perfect. So you would start from there, you take a left, you have Army Navy on your right, and then continue, and then when you hit Rojas Boulevard, another left, and go straight to Aduana, you know, the rotonda there. In that rotonda, that's the hairpin, U-turn, you come back, and then all the way up to Manila Hotel, and then turn right, and then back to Carino Grandstand. So that was the complete circuit. Of course, we have some chicanes and, you know, to slow down the cars.
We have an international participation, and we had people from Macau and Hong Kong and Australia that came over to join us in that particular Grand Prix. You know. It was a beautiful event. It was a well-attended event. It was even cited by the international JCs as one of the most organized event in motorsports here in the part of the world, no, in Asia, no.
The Greenhills Grand Prix showcased top-caliber circuit racing from international racers such as Alan Moffat, John McDonald, Albert Poon, Teddy Yip, and the fastest Asian lady driver, Ann Wong.
Pochola being a relative of the Ortigas clan, who was already putting up Greenhills at that time, came up with the idea of coming up again with a Grand Prix event, you know. Everybody got excited. Here we go. Motorsport is quite getting the necessary push up from people who are enthusiastic in the sport, and this was a very welcome gesture on the part of Pocholo, and of course the approval of the Ortigas board of directors for us to utilize Greenhills as our racing tracks. You know, can you imagine? We were racing on streets, you know, and that's how brave we are at that time. Can you imagine? We don't have safety barriers to keep us inside the track, you know. At times when we hit the side street of the street, we really fly over, you know. We were like airplanes flying over out there.
The people who watched these races were as close as you could get to the track. You can't get that close to the track anymore, no? So all the noise, all the fumes from the gasoline, you could really smell them.
After the Greenhills Part 1, Part 2 came at the Ortigas circuit. No? This is already the longest track put up by the Arab group of racers. No? In this enthusiasm of young ones at that time, we formed a group which is called the Automobile Racing Association of the Philippines, which was already given the task of supervising the motorsports racing activities in the country. You know, as one of the main event of the group, we came up with the Philippine Greenhills Second Grand Prix. You know, this was an internationally participated event.
You have Albert Poon, you have Ann Wong, the fastest women driver in Asia at the time. You have Johnny Leffler from Australia. Alan Moffat, also from Australia, driving for Ford.
Came out to be a very successful event. And luckily, I won the big one at that time. You know?
Without a dedicated racetrack and the rapid development of the Metro Manila area, the circuit racing community was pushed into the suburbs. Street circuits such as those in BF Homes in Parañaque were constantly stressed by safety issues. Rallying, on the other hand, in closed and sparsely populated provincial roads provided a more viable alternative.
When I came into the picture, it was people not like Dante Silverio, Arthur Tuason, Robert Aventajado, and the focus had shifted from race to rally. I think this arose more out of necessity than anything else. The races that Sila Pocholo used to run, Dante was running by then, they used to hold these in the mga subdivisions and Ortigas. The streets were there, the buildings were not there, so that's where they used to race, no? But as buildings took over these places, there were less and less venues to hold these races. So slowly, the places where they could hold them disappeared. But you had all the rally roads you needed to hold rallies. So the focus started to go into rallies.
I was very much involved in rallying. I stopped driving myself and became an organizer of these things. But also, you have motor racing or circuit racing. This was by another group. Ours was the Auto Rally Club of the Philippines. The other group was ARAP, Automobile Racing Association of Philippines. But mostly members of ARCP and ARP are all the same people. We help one another in the promotion of the sport itself. We already were rallying the tulip type, patterned after Europe. And Malaysia at that time was beginning to learn about how to rally. The route instruction was quite different. The rules were also different. To the extent that one rally champion said, "I'm going home." I said, "Why?" "This rally is for Mickey Mouse. I can't understand it." I said, "No, you have to understand that they are just beginning. How about your rally in the Philippines?" I said, "I'll invite you to our next rally, and you will enjoy rallying with us."
I actually came into the sport by accident. I was a good friend and client of Arthur Tuason, who used to sell cars. I'd spent a lot of time in his shop, and one day I was there, and there was a rally the next weekend, and his brother, Danny, was complaining that his navigator had gotten sick. So at that precise moment, I walked into the door, and they looked at me and said, You. I said, what? I said, do you want to navigate? No, I said, what's that? And they said, oh, you just sit in the right-hand seat, you hold this set of notes, and you just tell the driver where the next turn is going to come from. It didn't sound complicated to me. So I said, okay, I'll try it. And when the car left the starting line, I was petrified. I was so scared that for that first stage, I couldn't even look at the notes. I said to myself, you know, if I'm going to die in a car, I might as well kill myself by driving rather than being in the right-hand seat at the mercy of the driver. So I started driving. Basically, my mentor was Arthur. I began to get bitten by the bug.
I think it was the Gedol Rally. Somewhere in Nueva Ecija, they were building the highway, the Pan Philippines, and you have the culverts crossing the highway, and you have those humps. And we were going easily, we were going about 160, you know, and those humps would get us airborne. I was driving at the time, so we were airborne in one of those humps, and when I looked down, we were in mid-air, and I looked down, I see an old woman crossing the highway and a tricycle waiting for her on the side. So you can't turn the car, you can't brake the car because you're in the air. So I just prayed, man. It's a good thing she saw, and she kind of did her best to run, you know. And we missed her by the skin of my teeth. So my legs were shaking when we landed, you know. And Dancing said, okay, I'll take over. He took over the rest of the trip.
Unlike circuit racing, rallying was developing in the country. By the mid to late 70s, it was the most ubiquitous form of motorsports. There was an event for every class of enthusiast.
Well, we just do not want to combine the activities of Toyota Motorsports into selected few in my group. I thought of really spreading this out to the young ones. No? In doing so, I thought of putting up the Toyota Motorsports Club of the Philippines, no? Which has been very, very successful for a while. We have a lot of enthusiasm from the young ones. We catered a lot of motocrosses, a lot of events for them, and we have developed some real good talents because of that sports activities, no, of the club.
At that time, any car make is accepted, and it's usually a one-day rally so that the young people can feel how it is to rally on a weekend, 5-6 hour run, learn how to navigate, learn how to drive safely more than anything else. We were very fortunate here in this country that we have no casualties. We have some bad accidents, but not enough to cut the life of the person. We are still very lucky.
We do not only wanted to propagate rallying and circuit racing in general through street activities, no? We were looking forward into having a real track, no? That we can do our racing safely. In the late 70s, I was really scouting for areas where we can exercise this plan, and we have had several areas in mind, which is somewhere in Carmona, Cavite. I was about to finalize work on a certain piece of land there, and then the crisis of 1980 came up, and sad to say, that shelves up my intentions of coming up with a really international track to cater to the motorsports activities in the country.
Local rallying reached its apex during the ASEAN 4 rally. Gaining experience from campaigning in other countries, the Filipino racers and organizers put together an event that set the standard for rallying in the region. World-rated international rally drivers such as Russell Brooks from the UK, Leif Asterhag, Colin Bond, and Lars Carlson, to name a few, participated in this prestigious rally.
I have introduced international type of rallying here in the country. It was also a very, very successful event. Coming up with the fourth ASEAN International Rally, which was held here in the Philippines. It was a very well-attended event by international luminaries, no? There is Russell Brooks of England, there is Colin Bonds of Australia, and we invited Team Toyota to send a representation to help us cope up with the onslaught of international competitions. No? Team Toyota sent us Leif Asterhag, who eventually won that particular international rally. In my desire to really make rallying a very sophisticated and accepted to international standard, I have to look for really rare roads where we can really exercise a lot of challenges in rallying. I cannot do that in cars alone. No?
So Dante would hire a helicopter. He asked me to join him, and we go up to the area behind Clark Field, only to find out that there are roads there. The Crow Valley, the so-called Crow Valley. We would go north of Bulacan, and we will find roads there in Bulacan. We will go up to Antipolo, Buso-Buso, and we will find that there are roads there going to Infanta Laguna, which we never know if you're only on land, no? So this takes time. I would say that a 3,000 kilometer or 2,000 kilometer, it take a month, no? Because we plot it, we run it several times, and make corrections.
The mid to late 70s are remembered by the international oil crisis. Being the most visible activity consuming fuel, it soon became the whipping boy for those who did not understand the economic and technical relevance of the sport. Undeterred by the political and social opinion, the Filipino motorsport enthusiasts knew better and found creative ways to adapt and do what they love most, which was to race.
The Batasang Pambansa came out with Batas Pambansa number 33, prohibiting the use of fossil fuel. And I was so disappointed because why pick on us when we are very few?
There was a time when energy crisis was really the center of attractions all over the world. And of course, what's a better setup to criticize than motorsports, being dubbed as gas guzzler, a sports for some elite sports, and we were constrained to do motoring activities here in the country.
I tried to work on canceling this Batas Pambansa 33, but Congress said no. There might be another crisis in the future. We hope there is none. So we will just impose this use of fossil fuel as prohibited. But in our desire to continue, we begged the Minister of Energy, Mr. Velasco, to allow us to use alternative fuel. And this is where the alcogas thing came in. The government at that time also wanted us to experiment on gasifier, engine run by charcoal. Things were different. All of a sudden you have martial law. Everybody was taken aback, and it decided that you go out of the country because they allow you in the name of motorsport to go to Malaysia.
But then, when the crisis really got really serious, there was really a lull in motoring activities in the Philippines, and most of us will have to really sort of parting ways in our activities. Pocholo continued doing circuit races, and with Louie Camus and Nosing de la Merced, they had been avid participants in the Malaysian Grand Prix, Indonesian Grand Prix, And I was actively rallying all over Asia.
So Dante, supported by Toyota really, went into Australia, not for circuit, but also for rallying. We ran the Southern Cross, we ran the Alpine Rally in Melbourne. We were not successful, but the experience was there. No?
The 80s were times of turmoil and change. The Filipino racer still campaigned outside the country. In the late 70s and 80s, local circuit racing took a hiatus. Despite of this, a few intrepid Filipino racing car drivers would race against their fellow Asian counterparts in circuits in Macau, Malaysia, and Indonesia.
So from Malaysia, we would go to Penang. We would race in the streets there. It reminded me of Monaco, the race in Penang. We would race in Penang. That's still in Malaysia. Sometimes they will transfer it also to Johor. From there, we would go also to Pattaya in Thailand. We would go there in a contingent, no? Usually it would be, of course, there's Pocholo Ramirez, and then Romy David, Narsing de la Merced, Betong de la Merced, Dante Silverio, one or two more guys, and myself. We would go as a group and race.
Rally of Malaysia, I ran 4 times. I ran Rally New Zealand twice. I ran Rally Australia once. I ran Rally USA once. I did Hong Kong, Beijing 3 times. It's different when you're running against guys who are better than you, have better equipment. You try harder, no? And you learn quite a lot. In the meantime, I was running all these rallies abroad, and every time we did that, you would sort of get a douse of cold water, you know, because here, if I didn't win at least second place, I would be disappointed. But when we run abroad, we were lucky to finish number 18 or 19. The level was just so far advanced in the factory teams. And it was good because we learned stuff. We learned stuff from them. We also learned that we really had a long way to go. I think it was running with these guys that, you know, you develop the professional attitude towards rallying.
The reason I had to continue racing in Malaysia is because I built a car for the rules set up in Malaysia, which was called supercars, no? It was just one paragraph. That's it. It's free. A part of racing is engineering. You have to be able to prepare and set up the car to give you an edge to your competitor. To me, that was the beauty of racing. And since I had a free hand on that, they gave me a free with that rule of just silhouette racing. Saloon car, you can locate the engine wherever you want, in front, mid, the rear, whatever. I had a mold of a Celica, so I molded the fiberglass body, and then I used the suspensions of an Elfin Formula Atlantic. I had a mid-engine Celica with a BDA engine in it. My car was even featured in a Japanese magazine because, you know, it was one of a kind. I was very competitive in my class. My class was the 1600.
My best event was probably the first Hong Kong Beijing rally. It was the first time we'd ever run it, and it was really an adventure. As the rally progressed, we kept creeping up and up in the overall. We were number 45 to start with, and by the end of the first day, we were like in 28. End of the second day, we were like 17, and then at the end of the third day, we were like number 12, no? And so the head of the Nissan factory team came to us and said, can we include you in our team? Because there was a factory team award and you needed to have 3 cars to finish in order to be eligible. So I said, sure, will you service us? And they said, of course. So eto na, we were part of the Nissan factory team. And to make a long story short, at the end of the last day, we were in 7th place. The first 2 drivers, one was in 3rd and the other one was in 5th. So we won. Nissan won the factory team award, and I always like to say thanks to us, because if not, they would not have had 3 drivers to finish in such a high place. No? So I think that to date, that's probably the best finish for a Filipino team in a FIA rally.
The fastest cars were 1600 above, which were composed of turbocharged Celica driven by Tachi, a very well-known fast driver in Japan, and Oshino. And then you have the BMW M1 driven by Hans Stuck, no less by Hans Stuck. And then you had some local guys driving also some other, I remember Kenny Lee that was driving another BMW. But the M1 was unbeatable. And I had a fantastic experience racing with Hans Stuck, you know, because I would see him hit the apex exactly on the same spot every lap, consistently accurate. Fantastic. But the nice thing what happened in Malaysia is that I kept on dominating the 1600 class with that supercar that I had. That Rothmans were the ones who came to me and said, can we sponsor you? Pocholo was flabbergasted on that because Pocholo used to run after sponsors, no? Prepare portfolios and activities and all of that to be able to sell himself. But when he heard about that, he says, "My God, you're really lucky." So I got sponsorship from Rothmans after I think half a season, no? Or yeah, after that they sponsored me all the way already. I was very proud to see the Philippine flag, in Malaysia most of the time being raised because of my winning. Yeah, and sometimes I was all alone. I was all alone. I said, nobody sees this. Well, I don't beat the drum, I don't. To me, it was just for my self-satisfaction.
In order to finish first, you must first finish. And in order to do that, you need the help of your crew. It is because of our racing heritage, the Filipino racing mechanic also gained importance in the sport. Learning from their experiences abroad, the leaders of Philippine Motorsports then raised the standards in the development and preparation of their cars. The Filipino mechanic was exposed to this level of expertise. Soon, he would be a regular fixture in many foreign racing teams, campaigning all over the world.
Motorsports is not confined to the driver. There's a whole bunch of people without whom a competitive driver cannot be successful. The heart and soul of the team are the mechanics.
I really have to professionalize everything in our team, and I had to put up a certain area in our office that caters to motorsports activities of the Toyota racing team. And that was on the 4th floor of our building at that time. It was a well set up shop. I mean, it's complete. We have all the necessary equipment to augment and to improve our activities. Yeah, we have the talents here. I mean, it's just a matter of exploiting the talent. No? We have that here in the Philippines. No?
When it comes to automobile mechanics, the Philippines is second to none. Whenever you go abroad, particularly Porsche Cup, Formula BMW, F3, Filipino mechanics are there. So yeah, Philippine mechanics are the unheralded but equally successful part of Philippine motorsports. If you figure out how many jobs there are involved in motorsports, mechanics, the people who have engine shops, who depend on motorsports for income, if you take a look at how many companies sponsor motorsports and therefore how that money gets recirculated back into the economy, it's quite substantial. We figure that in any given year, there's probably between 1 to 1.5 billion that arises from motorsport that flows into the economy.
We were all much ahead in this sports in that country, you know. We were ahead of Thailand, we were ahead of Singapore, we were ahead of Indonesia, you know. And they were all above us now, you know. We were left behind, you know. So it's sad to say that without government support, it's going to be very difficult. So I just cross my finger and hope that someday government will open up their eyes and see the benefits of motorsport as a major tourism attraction for the country. Look at Singapore, you know. They have to use street track to attract worldwide attention, you know. And they're successful with it, no?
It has to be in your heart to race properly and be known as a disciplined driver or a good racer. It has even the smell, you know, of the exhaust. You have to be really determined to do it from the heart.
Well, you need a lot of focus. Motorsport is a very physical and mental sports. You know. You really had to undertake a lot of learning from the old masters. You know, I think it pays to look back and do and experience the words of the people that has been into motor racing. That will probably help them a lot, I guess.
Learn the basics from somebody who knows. That's the fast track way. The slow track way is you get into a car and learn how to drive, and you make mistakes and you spend a lot of money and you might even get hurt. And at the end of the day, you might not even learn as much as you would if you just take the time to go to school.
You have to devote your time. It is for your love the sport. It does not really mean that you have to have a sponsor to run or to join the rally. If you are really dedicated to that, because you know very well there's no cash money at the end of the rally. You are there to enjoy rally.
There is one thing that is important in racing, to have the attitude of the Westerners, you know, that they come to race and enjoy themselves. If they don't win, maybe they'll win the next race. Do not hesitate. Do it. Because there are some people that are sometimes have the chance to drive, but they're intimidated and they don't want to, in case they don't win and all of it. No, you just drive in there and try your best to win. If you don't win, then next time.